So, Mr. Trump delivered his July the 4th speech, and many waited with bated breath, only to be treated with a complete distortion of America, its people, and its status, with an oblivious crowd happy clapping all the way through, because he told them what they wanted to hear, of how great America was and is, except that is not reality. No matter how much you sugarcoat it, I'm sorry, Mr. Trump, but that was cringeworthy drivel. All about the image of how great America is, and yet we lag behind every other major country in almost every subject you can mention. And that is a fact. We top the world in the highest prison population per capita and military spending. That is our legacy. And you're only fooling the American people because the rest of the world sees right through the illusion of it all. America has so much to offer the world through its people only. They are the backbone of this country, not politicians, military generals, or agency goons. And it's no wonder when those three groups met the off-world beings, they all thought we were nuts, militaristic, and savages. It's indicative. So what did the American people get treated to? Well, a complete overwrite of history for a start. How great Washington and Jefferson were. Heroic stories, all based on lies. Both were Freemasons. One worked for the British, the other for France. Yes, great American patriots they were. Again, that is fact. He brought out someone from the Red Cross. Oh dear. No, seriously. Oh dear. The damage, origin and purpose of that group appears lost on our president and many others around the world, except the children and the families who have suffered at their hands. He even wheeled out the old alt-media saviour general from the previous time loop to take a bow, General Dunford. And what has he done in the last 6 or 7 years? General done F all. Trump reeled off a list of great achievements by Americans, yet most of those he referenced were 250 years ago. Again, how great America was and is. What use is that in the here and now? The reality is our country is so far behind most other leading nations now on every aspect, it's just not funny. They need to be told the truth, not more illusion. The whole piece was about great wars of the past, with much distortion of the facts, and in my opinion, and knowledge. All celebrate the US military. The strongest ever, he said. Well, if we are the strongest military ever, why have we been and still are in Afghanistan for the last 18 years? A ragbag group of towelheads in sandals, we are told, and yet the greatest ever military has not eliminated or dealt with them after 18 years. Or why are we still in Iraq after idiot Bush declared mission accomplished in 2003? Or still attacking Syria? If our military is that great, how does it take that long in those regions? None of which have an air force to fight back with. Trump spoke about the Air Force not losing any pilots ever, which I'm struggling to believe. Yet is it not the case that the 61 countries invaded since World War II, none of them had a recognisable air force, which would explain why we had no losses? Trump stated America owns the skies. That statement is staggeringly arrogant, and not the image America or its people need portrayed around the world. It's just not. Mr. Trump, we only own the skies against countries who have no air force. Fact. The reality is, if we'd gone up airwise against Russia or Iran, we would have gotten our asses kicked. I'm sorry, but that's the truth. And it's the same when we're having a ground war, like what happened in Iraq. The British SAS went into Iraq first. Why? Because it was the British dragon-led clowns who wanted and started that war over oil. They secured all the key points and towns like Mosul and then handed it over to the Americans to look after. What happened after that? They lost them all. And the SAS had to go back in again. Don't believe me? Go and check it yourselves. Like in Vietnam, 5 to 7 years required against another country with little to no air force, and how we struggled in that. And yes, we get all kinds of movies showing the glory of it all to the world, but the rest of the world is no longer buying it. Trump mentioned a government for and by the people, and yet despite much work done by our team and others, 3 years into the presidency, it is still looking much of the same old, appointing Goldman Sachs people, known neo-hawks, pedos, AIPAC disciples, and people for the Fed, which is essentially being closed down. For things to change, things have to be different. Currently, they're not. So we got a speech about military and wars and more wars. And that's it. And then he spoke about the great sacrifices of our military, which should be honoured. There's no question of that. But the question is, why have we sacrificed any one of our own people in all those wars of the past 100 years when no group or country has ever attacked America? Not one. It is an important point to remember. We have not been attacked by any country. Let that fact sink in and then ponder why we've sacrificed our children on far foreign shores. Think about all the lives, the homes, businesses, towns, villages and cities destroyed in the name of America in the last 100 years. And not one of those millions of people killed has ever attacked American soil. I'm sorry, Mr. Trump, or whoever wrote that script, which may well be an important factor in this. But this country does not want to be remembered by wars, and more wars. Is that all this nation stands for? It's not what the people stand for. And either you and your scriptwriters are doing them a great disservice. And it's sending a poor message out to the rest of the world with statements like, America has the greatest military ever. Despite being the 17th highest global expenditure on this planet and more spending than over 100 countries' combined GDP, A, we are not the greatest military, and B, the people deserve better than spending 2/3 of our discretionary budget on one item, the military. to get zero in return for that investment. When the people are in poverty, starving, ravaged with illness and disease, the towns and cities are crumbling, the infrastructure of what little there is collapsing. People are being pushed out of their homes, people are being pushed out of the states. FEMA is not fixing the now several disaster areas across the country. Crooks are not being arrested, corruption is rampant, agencies are out of control, real jobs are being lost by the hour. You can flower figures up with service-based jobs paying $9 to $13 an hour. They're not jobs. That is slavery. Period. You are allowing vulture capitalists, the Fed, IRS, agencies, NGOs and the rogue treasury to hijack our country and financially cripple it. This is what the American people need to hear, Mr. Trump. It's called the truth and reality. They don't need to see tanks, planes, helicopters and bombers. You cannot eat military hardware, Mr. Trump. We, the people, wish to see real change that is tangible. We wish to hear how and when you are going to fix the plethora of issues this country needs. We do not care about investigations, documents and hearings. The people in the alt media already know that shit. We don't want flybys, we want action. How about using the greatest military ever of ours of doing something of value for the American people for once and fix this festering and steaming pile of shit mess that this country is in? Fact. This country needs innovation, entrepreneurship, real teaching that doesn't hover around retard levels. It needs to engage its youth not for war, but for their betterment. New ideas, new ways of operating, open, fair and transparent ways of operating in banking, government, agencies, militaries and NGOs. Fact. It needs a new law system, as this one has clearly failed. The country, like all others, should become self-sustaining. And the greedy harvesters of everything needs to be removed and replaced with people based on need, not greed. That is what this country needs in a nutshell. A complete radical overhaul and to start again with fresh people not immersed in rich families, banking people or militaristic backgrounds. Ordinary people with new and innovative ideas. This country is a rancid, stagnated backdrop mired in illusion and fakery. Those that were not brought up in the MK Ultra style education system can see it all so clearly and are laughing at our stupidity, arrogance and sheer crassness, and it breaks my heart. There is a potpourri of peoples from all over the world here and an opportunity to set the stage and be a marker for the rest of the world to follow. Wonderful people who have all been sold out and metaphorically left to float down the Mississippi without a paddle. Eventually those people will tire, drown and die, and that is the future of America unless we stop talking shite. Get real with people and tell them, no, we're not the greatest actually. The only thing great about America is some of its people, period. We are great at nothing, but we can be great at everything. It just takes some will and some courage and a set of balls. Quit talking shite and start the process of doing and really fix the swamp. We don't want proof of who did what, when, where and why. Millions of us in the alt media already know it. We want the start of actions like now. A continued failure to acknowledge publicly and implement the myriad of proposals to actually fix this country done by the Manor World Holding Trust will be your legacy, Mr. Trump. And subsequently, not only your downfall, but the people and this country with it. I appreciate the levels of snakery that surrounds Mr. Trump. We know it all too well. But as Randy Morgan said on a post yesterday, we cannot carry on much longer without acknowledging there's a major issue publicly. And I personally will not carry on supporting something that does not deliver on its promises to the Manor World Holding Trust or to the people. Something big or very radical has to take place here and now. We and Mr. Trump know full well what's coming fairly soon. And that is a full-on matter of national security. And the appropriate actions have to be delivered before it's too late. The Manor World Holding Trust will support you as we deliver on our promises always. Now is the time to reciprocate. Mnuchin at the Treasury and now Powell at the defunct Federal Reserve telling you that you can't fire them. Really? Americans, this is how your so-called government works. Get those facts into your heads. Mnuchin and Powell telling your president that they can't be fired for anything. That is not wishy-washy, flim-flam or conspiracy. That is fact. Like an alcoholic requiring treatment. It's only possible to fix the issue if that alcoholic recognises it has a problem to begin with. This country is punch drunk with delusion and illusion, and fakery abounds everywhere, not just with the news media. It is indicative of something or someone who will not face the truth or reality. And this country needs truth and reality, as it sucks ass big time. The time to fix it is now. This message was the words of myself only and had no other input into it from anybody else. And the message was not at Mr. Trump, but to him. Big difference. This has been The Truth on an Integrity Show. My name's Thomas Williams. Bye for now.